Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of Wise Content Creates Wealth. You've heard that content is king. Well, wise content rules the world. And this content is about understanding how you can make and utilize wise content to improve your financial success or the profit of your business. I'm Joseph Franklin McElroy, and I'm a marketing technology expert who has built multi-million-dollar companies. I'm also an award-winning content producer. So be sure to go to wisecontentcreateswealth.com to sign up for my newsletter and to get access to resources to help you produce wise content. My company is Galileo Tech Media and is a leader in SEO and inbound marketing and various tactical executions for the marketing space. And we specialize in wise content, which is content that incorporates semantic science, behavioral science, AI, and data, and smart tactics to make marketing content that performs better. Now today, our agenda is Amazon, and then some insights into making it work with you with an industry leader, and also some resources to explore further. Amazon is one of the largest and most valuable companies on the internet today, in fact, in the world. And its market capitalization is well north of $1.5 trillion. So it's huge. I remember when it first started back, I think it was 94. I couldn't even believe that it was coming. I couldn't believe that somebody was going to try to sell online at the time, even though I was in the technology space, but they did it. It was designed to be an everything store. So I had a big vision from the beginning. Jeff Bezos, saw the opportunity to sell everything, to be like the store that was the biggest store in the world. And his motto was actually fast growth at all costs. But he had to start on something. So he started focusing on books. And there was a couple reasons for that. One was that books, when people buy a copy of a book, they know what they're getting, right? Because every copy of a book is essentially the same as another one. So it would be easy for them to know what they were getting. There was no decisions about, well, what's the color? On the internet those days, the buying experience was a concern, whether people would want to buy something without looking at it. And he realized that, well, books, people probably already know what they're getting, so they don't need to look at it. They're just needing to find the book that they wanted to buy because they're wanting the content. Additionally, books had the advantage at that time is there was just two main distributors, that were distributing to all the bookstores. So he could get access to like a 3 million book inventory that he could, if he made deals with them, to sell online. And no bookstore anywhere had that much inventory. And if he could get it there fast enough for people, that they would be willing to buy it online, then he figured that he had a pretty good shot. And, within a few weeks of going online, he was selling $20,000 a month in inventory. I mean, we all wish we could have that happen with some store that we put up. And then he just kept expanding from there. His whole motto of fast growth meant that he was quickly going into other verticals and bringing in, other horizontals and bringing other things to sell as fast as he can. So that makes it now to this point, a ubiquitous presence. It's now, some people say it's now become a public utility with this COVID crisis. I mean, it was necessary in a sense to get your groceries, especially when they also bought up Whole Foods, which had a whole network of stores, so that, it has multiple ways to get product to you. It's, I know in New York City, it would have been really hard at the beginning to do anything without Amazon, because all the local stores were selling out with everything. So to this day, it focuses in on the experience that the customer wants to have, which is essentially coming there. What Amazon is you go there, you can buy anything. You go there with the expectation that you can buy anything. Now, at some point, my wife was complaining the other day. She said, sometimes when I search for stuff, I just get all these crazy vendors all this crazy stuff, from all over the world. I don't know who to choose for anymore. So they might be becoming a victim of their own success in some ways. And I'm sure they're working on ways to deal with that. But the important thing that Amazon did early on is it did two things. One, it started allowing other people to sell and build their stores on it. And it also created associates programs, which allowed people to create essentially affiliates where they could get a commission for selling products that are on Amazon. And now 40% of the revenue comes through that associates program. So there's a lot of meat in Amazon and a lot of ways to be successful on Amazon, and a lot of ways to sell things. So it becomes somewhat confusing and difficult for the person getting started to understand how they can be successful. Well, I'm going to introduce you now to Luke Tierney. He's a director of ECO D2C, and he is a serial entrepreneur, an educator and digital marketer specialized in Amazon. He has given presentations on digital marketing and remote team building in 3 continents in English and Spanish. He describes his firm as Amazon Plus, in that while Amazon is at the center of ECO D2C's services, they focus on multi-channel strategies and how to use Amazon in combination with the other Goliaths of Facebook, Google, email, and the other and other marketing access to achieve the most growth that you can get. And we're going to go a little bit even further into all this with some of the wise content ideas that they use to help companies build their brand and their sales online. So, hello, Luke. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Joseph. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Hey, I was looking at your name, ECO D2C. What does that mean, and how did you come up with that name?
So it means eco, as in we work a lot with natural brands in particular, and it's that's just a space that we like to play in. We like to support good products, and then D2C means direct to consumer.
Really? Okay, cool. I sort of knew that, but I did. I actually met you at NatchCom, which is the big trade show for natural food products. How did you get involved in the natural food products in the first place?
So a lot of it just came from, well, just to take a step back. So when I first got involved in Amazon, I'd already been involved in digital marketing in a number of ways for some years through other ventures that I'd had. But Amazon in particular really stood out to me as a very interesting platform, because especially in those days, were a lot of individuals and small teams that were having a lot of success and growth on the platform. And so essentially, my motivation was, how can I best use these, fast growing newer channels to help brands that have, great products, whether it's better for the environment or people or what have you. I get the most excited about other companies and brands that are making something that are better. And just the infrastructure that Amazon has helped pioneer, I think, is just amazing for innovation and for discovering new products. And so that was the birth of ECO D2C. And to this day, that's what we do. We help brands not only in the natural space. We work in a lot of different categories, but we do work with a pretty large number of food and beverage companies that are trying to sell and trying to grow their presence on Amazon.
So you obviously know a lot about the marketing space, but you really decided to focus your company on Amazon. And how did you decide to focus on Amazon marketing?
Well, we wanted to be where we were most effective, right? And I should start out by saying that being on one channel is a bit of a liability these days more than anything. You do want to be present on other channels, and we do like to focus on how Amazon fits with a brand's other assets. Depending on where a brand is in their journey, different combinations of these platforms are appropriate. But Amazon is where we see the most bang for buck by far, and it's why we focus as heavily on it as we do. I mean, just to throw a couple of figures out there, Amazon is, looking at, especially, this far into the pandemic, seeing how the e-commerce landscape has changed and how brick and mortar has changed, and how it's going to change going forward. Amazon is 38% of all e-commerce in the United States. The next highest percentage is, I think, Walmart actually passed up eBay in 2020 for the first time. But Walmart had like I think below 6 or 7%, right? So the gap is massive. So when we look to, where can we continue to invest to best help, CPG brands in particular, Amazon is frequently Amazon is the answer.
Right. I mean, I know that the growth is going to be huge for these companies because e-commerce sales still at this point are less than 20% of the retail.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this and it's growing at an incredible pace. I mean, nothing like at the beginning. At the beginning, they were growing like 2,400% a year. So I don't think it's growing that fast right now, but it's going to continue to grow as more and more people. I think this pandemic has probably conditioned people to buy online tremendously, and I know that's happening. It's going to happen big in the travel space. A lot of spaces that that just were cut off from the physical connection with people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great place to be in. Do you remember your first Amazon marketing campaign?
I do. I do. It was years ago. There's a lot more features of the ecosystem has expanded quite a bit since those days. But one thing that I do want to touch on is, as you just mentioned, these days, with social distancing still in place, and it looks like there's like an end in sight with the pandemic, but it's still going on. There's a lot of people asking questions about brick and mortar versus online, and often these two spheres. And I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but it is the way that I see the conversation framed a lot is almost like a rivalry kind of thing. And depending on how you set up your deals with distributors versus how you set yourself up online, you can actually put these two things at odds. But it's more of a both and conversation. Like, you can have an integrated strategy, and more we see online and in person talking to each other more in really interesting ways, right? So I don't think I absolutely believe that e-commerce globally as well as in the US is going to continue to grow and grow and grow, but depending on which futurist you're talking with, you might hear like one is going to replace the other. I think they're simply going to become more and more integrated over time. And I mean, I know Joseph, you and I have talked a bit about how Amazon influences behavior on these other channels and in brick and mortar. But I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see the way that all this evolves.
Cool. Yeah, I think that what is e-commerce going to evolve into? I mean, I think it's going to be dependent upon also the other kinds of technologies that come along the way. Ways to actually virtually physically interact with clients, with products. 3D, augmented reality, virtual reality, all these things are going to have a great effect. But we're going to talk more about Amazon and Amazon SEO when we come back after the break.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Do you love, or are you intrigued about New York City and its neighborhoods? I'm Jeff Goodman, host of Rediscovering New York, a weekly show that showcases New York's history and its extraordinary neighborhoods. Every Tuesday live at 7 p.m., we focus on a particular neighborhood and explore its history, its vibe, its feel, and its energy. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Hey, all you listeners, looking to boost your business? Why not advertise on Talk Radio NYC with very reasonable rates? Interested? Simply send us a message on our website, talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Graham Dobbin. Join me every Thursday evening for the Mind Behind Leadership here on talkradio.nyc. We speak to people from business, sport, military and politics, all around what makes a great leader. The personal experiences of what's worked and, maybe more importantly, what hasn't worked. So that's 7 o'clock every Thursday evening, the Mind Behind Leadership here on talkradio.nyc. Listen to real stories of real leaders.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Hello, it's Joseph McElroy back with Wise Content Creates Wealth podcast, and with my guest Luke Tierney. Hey, Luke, we were talking about the impact of COVID and the coronavirus and the pandemic on e-commerce in general. What do you expect will be the biggest change in Amazon in 2021 after this pandemic is sort of subsided?
I think it's going to become more competitive. We've been seeing that trend for some time now. And I mean, the cost of marketing on the platform have gone up, but so has the opportunities substantially. Depending on the size of the brand that we're talking with, like there's a couple of different things we'll emphasize, but the thing that I think is going to be really important to keep in mind moving forward for small to medium-sized businesses, especially, is to think of Amazon almost as a Yelp for your products, right? It can be something that is helpful. It can be something that is harmful, and the difference is, how well are you managing your presence on the platform. Amazon is, just to give a couple of stats, just to throw out there that to give context to all this, Amazon is the #1 search platform for product research in the United States. It passed up Google a couple years ago in 2018. Some 63% of Americans start their product research on Amazon when they're looking for something, right? And so that's on the organic, more discovery side. And then on other pieces you have to contend with are, if for instance resellers are selling your product on Amazon, or you simply have listings that don't look very good, wherever people are finding your products, they're looking up on Amazon. Some 9 in 10 online shoppers will double check against Amazon for price and for reviews before buying on another site, and 9 in 10 of them are going to buy on Amazon anyways. We've seen examples of clients that have massive media appearances, Shark Tank, for instance, and some 70%, even though they try to push it to their website, 70% goes to Amazon. Without an optimized presence, they might have lost out on quite a few of those sales. 26%, this is pre-pandemic, 26% of in-store brick and mortar shoppers check against Amazon as well. And so when I mentioned earlier that online and offline are talking to each other much more, this is one of the immediate examples that we can give. And we've only seen that percentage grow since the pandemic has started. So over a quarter of customers that find you in store are still going to be checking Amazon, again, for reviews, for pricing parity. And essentially what this means is that there is, even if a brand is not investing in ads on the platform, right? Even as, especially if they're in a competitive space, it might be rather expensive for them to get involved. In a lot of cases, it is very much still worth it, but these are decisions to make strategically. But comparatively, like getting lost on the platform is pretty inexpensive. Like a professional seller plan is $40 a month, plus whatever costs and time it takes you to properly, to write your copy or to hire someone to write it and to make sure that you've done everything correctly. And then past that, you can collect the positive reviews as long as you have someone watching the account and making sure that your metrics, stay high and that you stay in stock. It can be a smaller investment that can reap a lot of rewards down the road. So, for brands of all sizes, there's a way to use Amazon to your benefit, that will fit within your budget.
Should a small brand or somebody to start up, should they just go directly to Amazon and start selling, or should they build a website or maybe a Shopify or something like that? What are the decisions there?
So we do see a lot of brands that launch on Amazon even before they build a website. I like to say that to think of Amazon as your second storefront online, your first being your website. However, it depends on how your customers are discovering you, right? But we do encourage brands to have both. As far as which one comes first, being on one channel can be a liability, and you can have a simple website that looks great without being high cost or very complicated. But as to which one comes first, we see brands launching both at the same time, doing one then the other. It really depends on what your marketing plan looks like.
Is there any other platforms that they should consider as well, like Google products or something like that they should also launch on, or is it just your own and Amazon? That's the game.
I would start with your own, and I would start with there's other marketplaces that are interesting, right? Facebook has come out with their own platform for listing products. Google, as you just mentioned, depending on how specialty your product is, Etsy might be relevant. Walmart is looking like Walmart is, especially when it comes to grocery, is decently, they're probably the best position to take on Amazon's overall position here, though they're clearly not doing it yet. Other online retailers also saw their numbers jump during 2020, and they'll be investing way more in their online presence as well. Target could be interesting. It really, in order to properly answer the question of what marketplaces should you be on, we have to have a conversation about what are you selling, and where does it make sense.
Well, which product set would be the ones that you think, or at least a couple that you think just need to be Amazon, and that's where they got to go?
As long as you're selling a product that does not require like refrigeration of some kind, or is so oversized that shipping units is going to be a difficult thing to do. I struggle to think of an example of a CPG brand that would not benefit from being on Amazon.
Okay. What do you think of Amazon's affiliate program?
In which way? Is it
a good way for somebody to build a business?
Sorry?
Is it a good way for somebody to build a business?
Well, it depends what kind of business you're trying to build. Most of the times when we discuss affiliates with individuals, like are referring to individuals that try to build a blog and make a lot of money through affiliate sales, this kind of thing.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's people who definitely made a lot of money doing exactly that. And there's different ways to go about it. There's different, some rules of thumb to follow. And that can get into its own world, its own rabbit hole pretty quickly as to like, how do you choose the right product? How do you gain authority on Google so people are actually finding you, which,
I have a reason for asking that is I have another podcast called Gateway to the Smokies, and I have building out a whole Smoky Mountain blog vertical with all sorts of content, and we're looking at ways to monetize it. So one of them is we're looking at affiliate book sales. So ulterior motives about that.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've known people to have success. I've also known a lot of people to dive into it and find out that it wasn't as profitable as I thought it was going to be. Like, you really, really, really want to make sure that you have that you picked your product well, that you picked a niche that is not going to be too competitive for you to rank for when it comes on Google for your affiliate site. And then the other, like I've had a website for a project that the monetization model was based on affiliates and unique partnerships before. There was some complexities to it. But essentially, one of the lessons that we learned pretty on is that, you want to have the numbers crunched before, right? You don't want to just count on like, oh, I'm just going to have like a dozen products up there. If we drive enough traffic, people will buy it. It's a much more precise science than that. You want to calculate from the beginning, like, okay, understanding averages of how traffic's going to convert on affiliate listings, how much, of an affiliate commission am I actually getting from this product? Once you start running numbers and realizing how much traffic you're going to actually need and how well your content's going to have to point to those affiliate offers, the model can either justify itself or fall apart pretty quickly, depending on the answers to those questions.
Cool. So what else? What are some of the ways that a brand can use Amazon strategically?
It depends if we're talking organically or as far as paid media goes, but just making sure that you are really controlling and managing your brand, and that you have enough information up there. What I mean by that is, making sure that, again, even if you're not selling your product at Amazon, somebody else very well could be. And there's different ways to manage that reseller issue. But even if you just put a listing up on Amazon and you don't have much content up there at all, 69%, like the vast majority of consumers will bounce from a product page if there's not enough information, right? You want to make sure that you have fully fleshed out titles, bullets, description. If people are familiar with Amazon, A+ content, you want to have a full set of images in your image carousel. Once you have all the basic building blocks in place, then it becomes a question of, well, how do I get traffic to this listing? Am I investing in that? Do I want Amazon to be a profitable growth channel for me? Is it more of a research I'm using the platform for the discovery and research opportunities. So when customers look me up, they'll find my listing and they'll find high quality reviews and they'll find high quality content. You can certainly start with one strategy and then move into the other, or you can do everything out of the gate. But it is very much worth making sure that you have your I's dotted and T's crossed in this case. The longer you leave it, we'll be called in to clean up Amazon stores that have had resellers for years, or just haven't paid attention to their own stores. And it's much easier to get this right from the outset than to wait until you have 75 reviews on the platform and like an average of 3 stars just because there's not enough information on the product and people bought it thinking that it might be something a bit different, right? Like a lot of these things can be mitigated early on before they become a problem.
Cool. Well, when we come back, we'll talk about the content, WISE content. I want to know more about what A+ content, A1 content is, and look forward to talking to you further.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Are you interested in having a better relationship with yourself, others, and God? Greetings. I'm your host, Dr. George Andow, for the show A Journey Through into Awareness. On my show, we journey into the awareness that the mind of God is the true seat of our personal consciousness. We join together each Monday at 7 p.m., so tune in on Talk Radio NYC.
You know you have it, the potential for a more rewarding life, a life that matters. But how do you get there? The answer is in a best-selling book by the coach of the successful and wealthy, Ken D. Foster, The Courage to Change Everything, Daily Strategies and Wisdom to Awaken Your Hidden Genius and Transform Your Life. With this powerful yet amazingly simple daily guide, your future is in your hands. You will be empowered to unlock your potential, bring out your true gifts, increase your wealth, and take your life and business to a new level. Get your life-transforming copy of Ken D. Foster's The Courage to Change Everything by going to couragetochange.us. That's couragetochange.us. Quite frankly, there's no other book like this. Imagine what your life could be like if you had at your fingertips the success principles to create the life you've always wanted. Are you ready to live your dream? Go to couragetochange.us.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hi, it's Joseph Franklin McElroy back with Wise Content Creates Wealth podcast with my guest Luke Tierney, and we're talking about Amazon and Wise Content. So, Luke, what would be your top consideration if your assignment was to help guide the creation of wise content for an organization?
So, in regards to creating wise content using some of the information we can get from Amazon in particular, I think there's some unique opportunities that listeners here can really use and dive into that I'd like to go over to give some actionables. So there are a couple of really unique data points that we can get from Amazon that we can't get other places, and some of these advantages stem from the fact that Amazon is the number one, product research tool. So there are ways, and these are what I'm about to suggest. In order to properly analyze, you do need some paid tools for it, or to know somebody who has access to them. We use Helium 10 quite a bit. They're fantastic. They're not the only ones out there. But
Helium 10?
Helium 10.
Okay.
They're the leader when it comes to SEO research, among other things. But there's a couple of unique things that stand out. Are one, if since this is the platform where people are searching the most for products, you can really size up a space, right? And you can see some unique data points. Like there are, it's called a reverse ASIN search, and I know this might be a little jargony for people, but essentially, you can look up and to see if you know how to use the tools correctly, you can look up to see, what your competitors rank for organically on Amazon. And if you really know how to play with things, you can even do group searches and play with the data to see what keywords they're converting for. Right. So if you know anything about Google SEO or Amazon SEO, it's pretty straightforward to look up, how much raw search volume there is any given month for a keyword. Right. But and that's important data to have. But another very interesting question to have is, what keywords are not only people searching for en masse, but what are they actually searching for and then buying? Right. Mm-hmm. Take things from just product research to, what key terms are actually getting purchases for your competitors as a group. And so if we use a lot of this data, then one, we can come up with a pretty accurate list of what the most important key phrases are, even if they are, lower traffic, longer tail. And we can not only optimize Amazon listings using these key phrases, but we can also take a look at copy in other places as well. And, at the end of the day, customers want to buy what they've been searching for, right? They're going to have an exact use case. They're going to have an exact solution they need filled. And you can create content around those phrases and targeting that audience. So it really it gives us an opportunity to be much more refined in our marketing, both on Amazon and off.
Cool. So So if you, if you have, I was looking, for example, I was looking for a product yesterday. It was a little desk fan that, a bladeless desk fan, something that was small, right?
Sure.
And, I would enter in the keywords, desk fan, small, bladeless, right? And then some came up, but then way further down, there was others that would have been considered the same thing, but they were much further down in the search. But I'm sort of a persistent guy, and I just went through them and actually found one that was more appropriate for what I wanted. But they were selling it for like table use, right? Table use, I guess as a coffee table thing. And so had all that kind of things. In that kind of scenario, would you create another listing, or would you somehow optimize for both the table use and for the small desktop?
Oh, I would optimize the same listing for both of those use cases. Absolutely. And this is something that we see pretty often, especially in with like specialty products or, innovative products that might ride a couple of category lines or try to be creating a new category. And we're trying to capture traffic from a category that's adjacent with similar use cases. And you don't want to, like, first of all, you'd have to have, separate, UPCs, and Amazon would not be happy if they caught you doing, duplicate listings in that particular way. But even apart from what they do or don't like, it wouldn't be an effective way to market, right? You would want to have one listing that is simply capitalizing on the different use cases for a product. If you had to scroll that far down to get to something that was more appropriate, that tells me that they might have a missed opportunity to better optimize and tweak the listing so that they move up for the use case that you searched for.
I see. Well, could a company, would it violate Amazon's policies if you actually created a different model, had a different model number, maybe a slightly different case or something like that?
Oh, not at all. That would be, if you're actually creating another product, right? If it's the same, and I have seen companies do this where, there might be two products that are very similar, but just have different names, and they'll try rebranding what's essentially the same thing, and they'll launch in another space, and maybe some like limited success there. But really, and especially in this case in which there's like a desktop fan, if I heard you correctly.
Yeah.
If there's enough search traffic to justify having two different products, where one is essentially a tweaked version of the other and it is actually a different product, then yeah, you can create another SKU. You'd have to have, you could variate it, which means, that you go to one detail page and you see the options for both, right? Like there would be a way to go about that. But if it is literally the same product, then I would advocate just better optimizations.
So give our listeners, some of the people out there might not know anything about optimizing. What would you say? Give a high level view of how you optimize a listing for Amazon.
So there's a number of things to look at, and one thing to emphasize is there's the data that we get on Amazon, and then there's the data that Amazon doesn't give us at all that we want to get from other places, right? The real art in having wise copy, on Amazon listings is certainly digging through the data that Amazon gives you, or that you can mine from Amazon, rather, I should say. But there's a lot of data that Amazon's not going to give you as well. It's not going to give you the demographic audience data that Facebook does, right? It's not going to have built in the kind of exercises the kind of data that a brand will get, going through certain kinds of exercises early on, to identify who their target customers are and to have language that they know is going to appeal to them. The real art is in combining the technical data that we mine from Amazon with a brand's own branded language. Is it possible just to mine what's working on Amazon and be very successful and create listings surrounding that? Absolutely. But there is also, there is information off platform that we are very, very intentional about incorporating. But as far as Amazon optimizations go, I mean, it depends on which aspect we're talking about. There's the keywords, there's the images, there's infographics, there's the way we position things. But if we're talking about keyword research specifically, you're going to want to size up your space. You're going to want to see what we call them head terms, essentially short tail keywords with a ton of traffic. You're going to want to do what those are in your space and what those are that are very near your space that your target customer is also searching for.
Now, do you use Google? Do you use Google Keyword Planner, or do you use Amazon? Do they have something equivalent to an Amazon planner that tells you keyword research?
We use Amazon. If a brand has Google data, then and especially if they already have data for what's already working on another ad channel or on their website, then we absolutely incorporate that. But Amazon has tools there's a lot of tools unique to Amazon's marketplace. Amazon doesn't have one for you, right? But there's tons of third-party softwares that you can go out there and use, some free, some paid. But looking up what your head terms are, looking at what, is working for your competitors is very important. Like a really thorough competitor analysis consists of more than just using tools. You actually want to visit the detail pages. You want to see what their unique selling propositions are, and you want to see where you can fit. And if you do all this right, I've known quite a few successful entrepreneurs and brands. Once they really get to know their space on Amazon, you can see which niches are saturated and which ones have more of a market gap for you to come in with an innovative product or for you to simply position yourself well. Amazon reviews are controlled pretty, since 2015, they're controlled pretty tightly. There's a lot of data there just that I think is very underutilized. I can think of a couple examples where, there might be, a particular product niche, and there'll be one leader that we can mine a lot of data from and see what's working for them, or a couple of leaders, trailed by a number of low quality competitors that are poorly reviewed and clearly don't have their marketing plans well put together. That's the kind of scenario you can look for to see, okay, so if I'm on top of my keyword strategy, if I identify my unique selling propositions relative to these competitors, then I can come in and I can fill a gap in the market and I can be quite successful.
And then you make your copy, talk about those keywords with your unique selling proposition in a way that helps sell. Good copywriting.
Exactly. If done well, you can launch right to the top.
Okay. Cool.
For certain high volume phrases.
Well, good. When we come, we're going to take a break now. When we come back, we'll finish up a little bit more about the specific aspects of a page that you might want to optimize, and then other resources you can get a hold of to help you in your journey.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauver, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business, or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Do you run or are ready to open your own business? Hi, I'm Jeremiah Fox. I've been operating and opening small business for the last 25 years, and I'm the host of the new show, The Entrepreneurial Web. Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern Time for insights and stories on the nuances of running small business right here on Fridays at noon, talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hi, this is Joseph Franklin McElroy back with Wise Content Creates Wealth podcast with my guest, Luke Tierney. And we were talking about optimizing your Amazon product pages. And, I think that, understanding the keywords and the unique selling proposition in your space where you need to fit your products is important. Weaving those keywords and the unique selling proposition of the content on that page is critically important, I think, in the titles, like everything else, and all the way down through the copy. But Luke, there's other things that go on that page. You got images and video and more copy, and you talked about something called A+ or A1 copy. What is all that, and how does it balance?
So essentially, so these we can list these different assets in order of how important, important they are. So your title and your images are going to be your most the very first things to tackle. There's a couple reasons for that. Your title, the first 80 characters of it is going to be what shows in ads, depending on what kind of device customers are on. It's also going to be just where it's going to be the first place that you can really grab a customer's attention. And then as far as your images go, Amazon has some specific image guidelines for the main image especially. But after that, you have a lot of, there's a lot of opportunity to include, we often encourage brands to include lifestyle photos, especially if there's a certain education barrier that you have to get over, or certain, USPs, unique selling propositions you want to get across. Infographics are really great here. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. But what you don't want to have is, you get on there and it's, a title that's like 50 characters long and like 2 images, because people will, traffic will leave. After that, in importance comes the bullets, or A+ content is what I referred to before. So A+ content is only available to brands that are brand registered on Amazon. It just means that they have a trademark and they've shown Amazon that they have that trademark, and that opens up certain features on Amazon that is simply not available to resellers, for instance. And so depending on if you're on mobile or if you're on desktop, and the majority, like over half of Amazon, of traffic on Amazon is mobile, there's an extra branded section called A+ content that you can fill out with extra images, extra text. On mobile, that appears before the bullets, and on desktop, the bullets appear first. So if you do happen to have brand registry, or if you just have a trademark, it is worth showing it to Amazon so you can take advantage of that. But it gives you, Amazon's pretty tight in the way it and how it controls the ways that you can show your content, right? They have quite a few rules. And so this is, it's just one section that if you have the ability to use it, it is best to do so, because it's one of the few opportunities you are really going to have to expand on the amount of branded content you have on a listing.
Cool. When we build content for websites and Google SEO, we like to at least look at the content and see what's performing, not performing, and refresh content on a regular basis, at least quarterly. How often should you refresh content in Amazon?
Not very. Not if you've done it really, really, not very often. If you've done it really well, at the beginning, I don't want to say it's a set it and forget it, because there are things to revisit. As you get, especially if you're running ads and you're getting data on, what keywords you're actually getting sales for, then, it can be wise to, do a periodic check-in and touch up, of the listings. But you don't want to do a full refresh of your copy, unless you have data justifying that you do so, or you're doing an entire brand refresh, something like that. Reason being, if you change, when you change a lot of things on an Amazon listing, it triggers a re-indexing process by Amazon. And essentially that means that you could be going back to zero as far as ranking for certain keywords.
Oh, wow.
And so Amazon's a conversion-based platform. If you have a lot of momentum, then you can just
leave it alone.
in a short enough amount of time, you can get back up there. But when we're called in to re-optimize listings, it's a common experience for there to be a short-term dip before sales start to climb higher, right? Like Amazon will need a moment to reset that listing. And then if we've done our job right, and if the brand has, a good marketing plan in place to support the listing, be it through Amazon ads or multi-channel, then you can absolutely, increase your conversion rates. You can address concerns that might have led to negative reviews. You can have a more targeted keyword strategy. You can incorporate your ads data to make sure that your listings are more tightly optimized. But it's something to do with care. It's not something to refresh just because it feels like it's a little bit stale. You want data to back that decision.
Cool. So we're coming to a close here. I wanted you a chance to talk about what your company does and how they can get hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So EcoDDC, is a full stack Amazon agency. We help with everything from optimizations to ads to technical troubleshooting. We're most concerned with, what way can you use Amazon that's going to, best benefit your brand and the moment it's in your brand journey. But you can always visit our site, ecod2c.com. You could shoot me an email at luke@ecoddc.com. I'd be happy to hear from you. But those would be the two best ways to get a hold of us. Our website has some information and some studies and things like this. So
cool. Do you have a newsletter people might be interested in getting a hold of?
We're working on the newsletter. We've had a couple iterations of a newsletter in the past, but feel free to drop us your email if you're interested in hearing from us when we kickstart that again.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. We're going to be doing a joint Amazon SEO webinar in February, correct?
Correct. If you want to do a deep dive on the strategy and really get some solid actionables in how and how you can incorporate a lot of things we've talked about today, please do join. Very excited to lift up, and show up what's underneath the hood, so to speak.
Yeah, we Galileo, we do a lot of the content writing for Amazon. So we focus in on the WISE content. So Amazon, so we often work with Luke and on particular projects. If you want to be informed when the exact date of that webinar is, you can go to GalileoTechMedia.com/subscribe to our newsletter, and then we will send out when that date is done. If you are hearing this after February of 2021, you will be able to go to wisecontentcreateswealth.com to find out all previous webinars that we've had and other kinds of resources. We'll also be able to GalileoTechMedia.com and find that information as well. You can reach me at joseph@GalileoTechMedia.com anytime to find out any questions you might have. I want to recommend a couple of things for you. You should definitely follow other people on this network, talkradio.nyc. Before me, Fridays is generally a pretty good business day. So at noon, you have the Entrepreneurial Web with, I don't remember the host's name, but I've listened to the show. That's because I'm here early, and it's a pretty good show. So that goes from noon to 1 on Fridays. And there's others that have come along that are fairly well. So I recommend highly that you pay attention to this network because it has some good resources for you. We are going to be putting more webinars up on GalileoTechMedia.com related to WISE content, and there's going to be, and how you can utilize it to really build your business. So it'll be more detailed and more action oriented, and I look forward to seeing you guys again. To come next week to this podcast, Wise Content Creates Wealth at 1 p.m. And we're going to have Kevin Lee, the founder of Did It, one of the largest agencies out there. You might have heard of him a couple of years ago. He tried to buy Gawker and made the news. So he is a mover and shaker in the industry. He knows a lot about Wise content. He's also building a new interesting nonprofit. And I invite you to come along and hear him next Friday from 1 to 2 at this same place. Thank you very much. It's been good talking to you.